we are replacing the fuel pump and fuel level sender unit in the Scion TC 2006. Sorry, I got my headlamp on, so the lighting's gonna be weird. So the first step you wanna do is, if you can lift this right out, it just pops out with some pressure hooks. And that seat will come right out. And you just have to push in the buckles. There it goes. That is where the fuel pump is underneath. I already took this off before, so the seal's already broken, but there's this really kind of thick, gooey, gluey substance that holds it in place. You can just take a screwdriver and pop it in and lift it up, and it'll come off. You gotta be careful though, because the wires here aren't too long, so just make sure you don't rip them. Okay, let's take this out. Set that aside. Good opportunity to clean up back there too and catch any spare change. Okay. Gently pry up. Seal a bit. There you go. Okay, there's two plugs back here that you're going to want to unplug. That one. Got that one off. Next one. It's off. Good. Set that aside. Okay, so you're going to see actually that there's quite a bit of dirt down in here that accumulates. I already cleaned it off pretty recently, so it's not a problem, but usually this thing's just covered in dirt. You're going to have to brush it off or vacuum it out or something, so that when you take this off, you're now going to expose the fuel tank, and any dirt that falls in there, it's not good. On those, okay, probably, let's go 8mm. Yep, 8mm. Take this out, pinch those tabs and just push that off to the side, because there's a screw under there you're gonna have to get to. There. Okay. As I was going around loosening these screws, I ran into the fuel line. Now, this is pressurized, so when you pull this out, it's going to squirt a little bit of fuel. So it's just, what you want to do is, you want to get that yellow tab pulled out. There you go. Okay, so careful with this. Close your eyes or use safety goggles. Oof. Too much. All right, cleaning that up. That was definitely a oopsie daisy. Let's try that one more time. Now I remove the fuel cap to release any pressure built up in the tank. Okay. Seems like all the fuel has gone out of that line. Make sure you have plenty of rags on hand. And definitely goes without saying, do not smoke anywhere near this. No open flame, no sparks, nothing. In fact, probably would have been a good idea to unhook the battery, but oh well. Okay, so it's cleaned up. Now let's get the rest of these screws up. Okay, I went and got myself some nitrile gloves, and I pulled off all the screws here. This bracket you will not be able to pull out because it's actually attached to this wire, so you're just gonna have to work around it. Then move that over to the side while lift this sucker out. Good. Make sure you get that a nice little wipe down. I want to just keep all the parts of your car clean as best you can. This is the big filter module here. It sits inside the tank, and there is the fuel filter that goes inside this thing, and the fuel sending float and the fuel pump is inside this module. So gently, you're going to want to lift it out, and it's actually full of fuel, so once you get the whole thing out. It's a bit tough to do this with one hand. It'll be easier with two hands. Here we go. There. Now, just tip it in and pour out as much fuel as you can back into the fuel tank. Do not let anything else fall into this tank. It is very important. You do not want to get anything else in the tank at all. Okay, let's take this sucker out. I just replaced the fuel filter. The replacement fuel pump was actually not very good, so I'm re-replacing it. And while I'm at it, I'm also doing the fuel sending gauge because there's something wrong with it. It sort of stays on full for half the tank, and then it shoots down to empty pretty fast after that. So there's something wrong with it. So I figured might as well just go ahead and replace it. Okay, here we go. So what you need to do is you actually have to pry that off. This is the new fuel filter, you can tell, because it's a totally new color compared to this orange stuff. This was all originally white, but due to the nature of the fuel, it's just not good. There's actually an order to which you need to pry these off. Usually there's like a little arrow, yeah, here. So that indicates that it's the first one to go, and then you pull it off that way. Trust me, do it that way, because trying to do it another way, it's just very difficult, and you might end up breaking it. And you don't want to crack this housing at all, because it's holding the fuel pump in here, and if there's any breaks or leaks or anything, then it might be trouble. So I can't really do it with one hand, so I got to do it with both hands. I'll see you in a bit. All right, here we go. So I got that unpried, and there we go. You can pull it right off. You'll see that the fuel pump is plugged in, so we can unplug that. Oh yeah, okay, it's got a little snap in here. So. There we go, got it out. Set that aside for now. We'll do the pump first. Okay, so that's the top part. We're gonna now do the bottom part. Okay, I got this snapped off. Now, I just want to remind you, careful, be gentle with this. If you crack any of these, you know, you might have to replace it. So any of these guys. So just really gently start with this one. Start with that one, and then that one, and then come back around. Pop that one, and then finally these two. Good. So set that aside. Now you're gonna see this rubber guy. Set that aside. Now you're gonna want to take this. Actually, the pump at this point will actually pull right out. Okay, so that was a little bit tougher than I thought, but I did eventually get it out. And there it is. You want to pull that little guy, that white plastic thing off, pry it off with, you know, maybe some needle nose pliers or something. Be gentle, don't crack it, don't break it unless your replacement fuel pump comes with that, because you're going to need it. Also notice this rubber O-ring. You can replace that if needed. And then this strainer is held on by this little star washer thing. So you're going to have to pry that off and then gently coax that strainer out, and then you've now taken apart the fuel pump. All right, I have my new fuel pump here. This is a Bosch premium fuel pump made in Brazil, believe it or not. Okay, so this is the new one. That there is the old fuel pump. You can see that they're identical in size. It came with some extra hardware, so we're not actually going to need that little hose and those clamps. The extra O-ring that it comes with, and there's a little star washer thing, lock washer, because the one that was on it, I think I pried it to junk. So there you go. All right, now I'm just going to basically put this stuff on this one. We're going to reinsert it in here. The strainer is also on, and you have to press that down on there because it's pressure fit, and then it's held on by that lock washer here. So the way to get that lock washer on is take the new one here and place it on there like that. And then what I do is I actually take a small socket, 4mm, put it on top like that, and then just tap it down. That way you can get it on there, and there's no way it's coming off. So my fuel pump pre-assembly is done. I put the strainer on, I got the star lock washer thing on, I've got this plastic thing back on there, got the new O-ring on, and then I put that top tight fit crown piece on. We're gonna line up with the hole down there. Yep. Find it and seat it. Done. So should look nice and tight like that. We're gonna use the OEM boot. By the way, this pump says DENSO. It's actually a counterfeit, so you gotta really watch out for stuff like this. It's not true. It's cheap Chinese counterfeit. Now the bottom's on. We are gonna handle the fuel sending unit. So it's pretty self-explanatory. There's little clips here and here. You just presumably unclip them and pull this sucker right off. So let's give it a go. All right, that was very straightforward. It did just unclip on those two clips, and then it did slide right out. I have here my genuine DENSO fuel gauge sender, and we're just gonna pop that on. There we go. That's it. Yep, plugs right in there. We're good to go. Okay, so this kit comes with this handy adapter because the OEM fuel pump has a different kind of plug, and then this plugs in to the new pump here on this end. Now, since I already replaced it with this cheap counterfeit DENSO one, I ended up having to already do the wiring here, so I just attached the wires with these little red crimps, and it worked out just fine. So this is obviously a lot more handy than this way. Anyways, I already did it, so I'm not going to do that step. So all we have to do now is plug it in. Good. And then now when I put this in, I'm going to make sure that all the wires are not in the way, because there's actually a little grounding connector there. Up there, you don't want to get any wires in the way of that thing. Not exactly sure its function, but it obviously has one, so we're just gonna let that be. The unit is back together. Make sure that you go through and you check every single one of these clamp points, these clips, and make sure that they are all tight, because you don't want anything loose in your fuel system. Otherwise you're going to have to pull the thing out and do the whole thing over again, or maybe something even worse might happen. So we're looking pretty good. Let's put it back in the car. Back in the car with our brand new fuel pump and our whole assembly, filter assembly here. We'll just stick it in the way we took it out. There we back in. It actually sits like that. So before we plug the fuel line back in or any of that stuff, we are going to take our bracket and basically just put this thing on in the reverse order that you took it off. And at that point, we should be good. So we'll see you when it's all done and we'll test it out. I would just like to take this opportunity to remind you that that yellow clip, or whatever color it might be on your model, go back on the fuel line when you replace it. Very, very crucial. Do not forget it. Here we are in the car. Everything's all put back together. Now we're gonna test if the car starts. Give it another shot. There we go. Started right up. Okay, good. Scary for a second there, but I guess there was some air in the line since we let out all that fuel. Good. Success.